Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Are we live? Oh yes we are. Unscripted reviews. I felt the need to say that because it seems to be a thing that every reviewer is saying these days, whether it's tech or what have you. There's nothing new about me. Your boy's been unscripted, shooting from the hip since day one. But day ones already know that. People who have subscribed over the years know what your boy is all about. New subscribers, new viewers, welcome. Hit that subscribe button. Do it initially. Don't even wait till the end of the review. Just do it, because it feels right. It feels sexy. Your boy lives his life asking for forgiveness rather than permission. I think you guys should do the same. Now, people, I've had this box set. Wait a minute. What kind of review is this? I meant box set since Thursday evening. Spent the weekend watching it, going through it, forgot how good these movies were. I really did. I remember them being great, but I forgot how great. Took me back to my childhood, watched them the first time, forgot that I was actually reviewing these movies. So I had to go over them again for you. You're welcome. People have called me the life of the party, but I'm not really a people person. I ain't gonna lie to you. Some people are listening thinking, where's he going with this? I'm gonna tell you. Every time I give people a chance, they disappoint me. Case in point, the Amazon reviews for this 4K box set. Some people are giving it 0 stars because it contains the 4th movie. Now don't get me wrong, the Crystal Skull or whatever it's called was trash. It was absolute garbage in my opinion. Yeah, I didn't like that movie at all. As a matter of fact, I hated that movie. I would rather jack off with sandpaper than watch that movie again, but I had to for the review process. That's how dedicated I am. Doesn't mean that I'm gonna give it 0 stars. The whole box set as a whole is fantastic in terms of value. But people are saying it's too damn expensive. Yeah, £80 for 3 classic movies sounds reasonable to me. Some people just need to chill out. But anyway, in terms of the movies themselves, my favorite, surprising to a lot of people, is actually Temples of Doom. I love that one. That is by far my most enjoyable Indiana Jones movie. I know a lot of people disagree, but that's it for me. Second would be Raiders of the Lost Ark. Third would be The Last Crusade. And fourth, you know which one the fourth is. The one everyone hates. Whilst we're on the subject, fellas, tell me which ones are your favorites, in what order. I'll be curious. I think the general consensus is Last Crusade being the best, but I'd be interested to know. Now, a few days ago, I put a poll up in the community tab, doing a survey asking you guys how you want me to review it. Do you want me to review each movie individually, so there'd be 4 separate uploads, or would you want me to do it all in one? Just give you my general opinion of the whole box set and what have you. And at this time of reviewing, 69% of you want me to review the whole box set as a whole. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, I will say that I do own the Indiana Jones collection on iTunes Digital. Was hoping that they would switch over to 4K, but they're still very much in HD. And I did have a quick look through them, and I will say, 1080p's of these movies, the streams look very, very good indeed. Now, I am aware that the 1080p Blu-rays have been remastered with a whole host of extras on those discs. However, I believe the Blu-rays on this box set are the old Blu-rays with all of the old features. So if you already own the previous 1080p Blu-rays, you're pretty much getting that over here. Nothing extra. Now let's go over to Ultra HD. The 4K Blu-rays, 4K digital intermediate, which I know will make a lot of you happy. They went back to the original 4K negatives for these releases. You got black bars across the board, HDR10 and Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, and 100 gig discs. That's what we need with 4K, people. That's what we need. Released June 7th in the UK, June 8th in the US. I'm gonna leave some Amazon links if you haven't already, so you can pre-order that through me, baby. Costs you nothing. Amazon kick back a little something for your boy. You know how it goes. This is one of those releases that is an upgrade, but it's far more noticeable in color than it is in resolution, although an upgrade is there. Landscapes, establishing shots, and specifically background across the board has more detail to it. When you have characters engaging in conversation and you see the background on the 1080p, it looks a little muddy. But on 4K, trees, the jungle, the snakes are a lot more easier to make out. Within the first minute of Raiders of the Lost Ark, you see them walking through the jungle. You see the way the sun hits the leaves, and there are some artifacts there on the Blu-ray. And for the most part, it's cleaned up a hell of a lot on the 4K. In Temples of Doom, where Indiana Jones and Short Round, they cut the bridge. They cut that whole scenery in 4K. It looks fantastic. The trees look sharp. There's a real sense of depth there. It's far more immersive thanks to the 4K-age implemented. In The Last Crusade, when Indy is chasing after his father in the desert, fantastic once again. 4K really adds detail, even in the sand and even in the tanks and the vehicles. Looks great. Now, I know people are going to switch off here, but even the fourth one looks great. It probably looks the cleanest out of the bunch. Okay, it's got that kind of sepia vibe going on in that movie. But what I did notice with that is, especially the pursuit and any kind of movement, it is sharp. You're noticing a lot more details. There's trees and leaves fly by, and especially in the chase sequences, you're noticing a lot more detail in movement on that specific 4K Blu-ray, but who gives a shit? I don't think any of you are interested, but I thought I'd mention it. So the 4Ks across the board definitely provide more detail than the 1080p, but the 1080ps look great too. So the details vary from noticeable, very noticeable, to very subtle, but they are there. There is more wear and tear on Indy's leather jacket. The beads of sweat from Indy's forehead whenever he's stressed out, and let's be honest, he's stressed out a lot in these movies, is very noticeable here. When Kate Capshaw gets thrown off the elephant and she's crying in a puddle. Now, how am I going to say this without sounding somewhat perverted, okay? She's obviously soaked, but the 4K makes her look more soaked, if you get what I'm saying. That's the only way I can put it. Man, I had a huge crush on her in this movie. Huge crush back in the day. I don't know why, but I did. Can you imagine the way the world is now? Remember when she puts her perfume on the elephant? She wouldn't even be able to do that now. Right, animal rights activists will kill this movie. But I digress. From 1 to 4, generally fairly clean looking. There is noise, there is grain here and there, it's light, nothing overpowering, nothing that's gonna upset grain haters here. And here lies a couple of issues. What the uptick in resolution tends to do is, it tends to make green screen and special effects stand out more. In a bad way. And it does in some of the scenes throughout this movie. But what can you do? It's the nature of the beast. There's no way of really changing that. And let's get on to the second issue. Well, it's an issue depending on how you feel about it. It's DNR. Those 3 letters that cause unrest in the AV forums and generally in the 4K Blu-ray community. But DNR is scattered throughout all 4 of these movies. How much this affects you is basically down to how sensitive to DNR you are. To me personally, it varies from noticeable to very, very subtle. There are certain scenes, certain close-ups that can look a tad waxy, a tad posterized. But to be honest, there's nothing here which really affected me to the point of ranting about it. And you know how I feel about DNR. If anyone doesn't know, watch my T2 review. And to me personally, it's not excessive, to be honest. I'm watching it on a 77-inch screen, and on a screen that size, when you're watching 4K movies, you pick out a lot of imperfections that someone may not see on a 65 or a 55, and I sit fairly close to the TV. Like, I can imagine there'll be some things I've critiqued in previous reviews, and you've probably watched the same 4K Blu-ray thinking, I think he was a little harsh. So take that into consideration. But here we go to the main star, to the main difference with this 4K box set, and that's the HDR and the color grading. Black levels and shadow detail across the board on these movies are absolutely phenomenal. The chase through the mines in Temple of Doom, black level galore. Right, that's where black levels truly shine, because you're picking up a lot more detail on the 4K that you're just not seeing on the 1080p. I've always said to Shane, spit change. I always felt that the way they marketed 4K Blu-rays is all wrong. The way they should have done it really is put HDR Dolby Vision at the forefront. Call them HDR discs rather than 4K discs, because I think that's usually where the main differences occur. And they really do on this movie. It's got a nice, natural tone throughout these movies, because on the 1080p, I did feel, especially Raiders, was a little bit overblown in some of the colors. They were a little bit oversaturated in parts. And what this has done is leveled everything, but still offering vibrancy where it needs to. I mean, skin tones have a more natural look to them, but it pops where it needs to. I mean, the song and dance at the beginning of Temple of Doom. I know I reference Temple of Doom a lot, but that's my favorite, you can't blame me. But across the board, where you expect it to shine is where HDR shines. There's nothing which is scorched earth, there's nothing blinding, like there's a lot of scenes throughout the whole box set where they're traveling through jungles and traveling through wildlife, and you see the sun rays coming through the leaves. I would expect it to make me squint, but it didn't quite do that. So although it's not blinding HDR, it does look great across the board. The primary colors take a bump, the greens look great, blues, reds. When Indy is going through the test at the end of Crusade, dark tunnels, booby traps, spider webs, and limited lighting really showcase what HDR/Dolby Vision is all about. When it comes to 4K, resolution simply is not enough. Resolution combined with HDR with the wider color space presents more detail, more depth. Even the cracks over the stones where Indy is walking on in the test, much more detail there, much more depth there. And it's also about the subtleties, the nuance in colors. It's definitely got a wider color. You can see it from the sky to the different shades of green in the leaves. You're not seeing that on 1080p. I watched these in both HDR and Dolby Vision, and there are very slight differences. HDR is slightly brighter overall. Dolby Vision is slightly dimmer, but there's a little more luminance in certain scenes. Is that a game changer? No. I always feel that between the two, they're very subtle differences anyway. Some people prefer HDR because they prefer a slightly more brighter image, and some people love the accuracy and the vividness of Dolby Vision. But the differences are so subtle, you're a winner either way. Now, if Indiana Jones in 4K doesn't get your girl salivating, you look her deep in the eyes and you tell your girl to sit on the woofer and see what happens. You know what's gonna happen? The sound from the woofer is gonna surround her booty, and she's not gonna be able to get out of that circle of dimension. Because the Dolby Atmos on all 4 discs produce excellent surround sound that you've not heard before, surround sound which wasn't present on the 1080p Blu-rays. The Atmos on the whole box set provides a very, very immersive sound stage all around you. 360 degrees of atmosphere. There are a lot of things I heard in this mix which I didn't hear on the 1080p. I ain't gonna lie to you, like in the jungle you're hearing things far into the distance, birds tweeting, little sounds, branches snapping off, little leaves brushing against each other. You're not hearing that on the 1080p. Now don't get me wrong, the 5.1 tracks from the original Blu-rays were superb, but this takes it up another level. It retains all the punchiness and the dynamics from the original track, but it takes it up a notch. There is more detail in the subtleties. There is more thunderous bass in action sequences. And although there really isn't much going on in the height speakers, it more than makes up for it when the music hits, when the score hits, when you got the theme going on, that hits you from up above, and it's more than worth it. Dialogue is crystal clear, front and center where it should be. And although there is the musical score, like I said, and minor effects up top, it's all about the surround sound, and the surround sound on these movies is magnificent. You see, the 360-degree circle surrounding your girl, that atmospheric circle that surrounded the booty, had just sucked her right in. You've lost her forever. And there we have it, people, my review on Indiana Jones 4K, the box set, all 4 movies. Right, so I'm gonna give it an overall score of 8.8 in terms of picture quality, and in terms of Atmos, I'm gonna give it an 8.9. The Atmos is fantastic. This is a must-have. This is the best the movies are ever gonna look, and you're gonna notice it. So make sure you pick it up. If you haven't pre-ordered it, like I said, I'm gonna leave some Amazon links. Go through them, costs you nothing. Amazon kick back a little something for your boy. Hope you enjoyed the review. If you've got to this point and you haven't subscribed, shame on you. It's the 4K Rockstar. You already know.